All right, friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kristen, and this is Growing Zone 9B. So today, friends, we have lots to get done. I had some bread proofing. Look at that. So we gotta level it out here and get it all rolled up. I just turned the oven on so that we can get this bread started because today we are going to be making some broth. I was telling you guys the other day about the Nourishing Traditions cookbook that I have, and well, that writer has an additional book which is called Nourishing Broths, and that, my friends, is what we're going to be making today. All right, there's our bread. We're gonna go ahead and put it in the oven so that we have some delicious bread. All right, friends, so here is the book that you guys want to be purchasing. This book, listen, I thought I knew how to make broth, and I did. I made broth, right? But I didn't necessarily make it like this, and this book shows us so many recipes on how to make some delicious healing broths. It says right on here that this cookbook can help treat symptoms of autoimmune disorders, infectious disease, digestive problems, and other chronic ailments. So, you know, listen, this is the claims that they make, but I mean, I definitely think that they make some healing stuff in here. So, all right, on page 184, there is a recipe. It is called Liquid Gold, and that's what I've been making. And friends, it's not only delicious and nutritious for your system, but it just gives you that extra that you need to just feel so much better. Let me show you what a made jar already looks like. All right, here's what the jar already looks like made. Now, you can strain this off after we make it, but for me, I like all the nutrients in it, so I like a thick broth when I'm not feeling well, because sometimes I just don't want to put food on my stomach. So I'm just wanting something that's pretty digested for me, and this is definitely my go-to. It's super beautiful. It is definitely very golden like. It's kind of like got an orangish tint to it because we're going to be using some carrots in here. Now remember, we're growing some fresh carrots out there in the garden, so this is definitely something that you can use a lot of garden vegetables that you already have. So if you don't want it to be this thick, what you're going to end up doing is you can use like a cheesecloth or just use a strainer that's very tightly woven, and then drain it through that, and then you won't get these big chunks. What I've also done with this, because I do like mine kind of like smooth thick, is once I put it in my crock pot, I actually take an immersion blender and I blend everything up. So you have two ways of doing it. Is you can actually put it in a food processor, these steps I'm going to show you, and you can do it that way, or you can go ahead and just put your immersion blender in your crock pot and blend it up. So whatever you feel is best for you, but if you get the book, then you can follow the recipe and come up with you and your family's own process and how you guys like it. For me and my family, this is how we do it, and so I definitely want to show you guys how quick and simple this is. This is something that you can just, for us, I can just do, walk away and go to work, and then by the time I come home, it's already ready. Unfortunately, I've already worked today, so this is gonna be cooking, honestly, probably through the night for us. I will check on it, but I'll just put it on I'll put it on low, and it'll be fine for 6 hours, 8 hours. It'll work for us. So, all right, I'll bring you guys back, and then I'm gonna show you how easy this recipe is to make. All right, friends, so what you're gonna need for this easy peasy recipe is you're gonna need a crock pot, which we have here. All right, you're gonna need 8 cups of water. So 8 cups of water. I don't have the water yet. I'm gonna put it in after, okay? Then what we need is, we need 1/4 of a cup of apple cider vinegar. So this is the apple cider vinegar that I'm going to be using today. You can get this at Costco. So it's 1/4 of a cup, and I don't measure. That vinegar is really going to work very well for people that are having like strep or sickness. Vinegar will pull stuff out of your body. All right, so then after that you need one large onion. You're going to cut the ends off. You can leave the skin on if you want, but I'm not. I'm saving that for something else. So another broth project that I have. So I just chop it up. I do chop it up in like larger chunks because, like I said, I'm gonna throw my immersion blender in here, and that's really gonna dice everything up for me, so I don't have to worry about what it looks like. All right, I am going to, you can use a whole head of garlic. I'm just gonna use about 5 cloves here, so I'm just gonna throw those in. And then we want some ginger. So to me, I'm gonna say like maybe about 1 inch of ginger. Now, you know, here in Florida we can grow our own ginger. I have other videos out there on ginger. You can peel the skin off or you can leave the skin on. For now, I'm just leaving the skin on because I'm just throwing it into our crock pot because, like I said, I'm using the immersion blender, so this is going to be super easy. Okay, all right, and then next what I like to add, now the recipe does not call for this, but for me, I like it. I'm going to add about 1 cup of carrots, because carrots kind of add a little bit of that sweetness to get, you know, when you're not feeling well, you don't just want that straight raw like vinegary taste. Now I don't anyway, so I add a little bit of the carrots in. And then really it's, you can add some oregano if you have some oregano. I have some fresh rosemary, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the oregano that the recipe calls for, and I'm going to add some rosemary. So let's get that rosemary put in now. All right, so we want to go ahead and add some pepper in. The recipe calls for about 1 teaspoon of ground pepper. We also want 1 teaspoon of turmeric, ground turmeric. And so let's get the turmeric. 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric. All right, friends, this is the turmeric that I'm using, just so you know. You can order this on Amazon. Friends, it's that simple, that easy. I'm just gonna put it on low with the water. I'm gonna go ahead and add my 8 cups of water and put the lid on it, and guess what? We're done. That's how simple this recipe is. Cook it for about 6 to 8 hours and put your immersion blender in it, and you guys have a beautiful, wonderful broth that is healing during the sick season, or if you have someone who's not feeling well, who maybe just came home from the hospital like my fiance, and they just need that extra delicious nutrients. So there you go, friends. That simple, that easy. I'll bring you guys back as soon as that bread is done. All right, so as promised, look at this beautiful bread. I literally just pulled it out of the oven. Look at that. That is gorgeous. And the crust, you hear that? Friends, that's all you need. Some fresh bread, some delicious broth, and of course, pick yourself up this book if you have the financial means to do so. I think that you will find it extremely beneficial, healthy, and healing. Going back to nature, going back to making our own broths, going back to tradition is really important. So, as always, friends, until next time, love one another, be kind, and I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching and spending time with me today.